And after that, here Kramnik goes for knight to b4, targeting this bishop as well as also guarding this d5 pawn. And now some of you might be thinking that why did he go for a3? I mean, here black can easily capture this knight on c3, and by this you can see now white has these double pawn structure, uh, which looks very bad. But let's go back to our move, which is a3. Yeah, so instead of a3, so let's suppose if white decides to capture this knight on e4 by knight takes e4. But guys, that will be an inaccuracy. This is because after bishop takes e4, now you can see black is targeting this c2 square. And if he tries to push suppose a3, which first of all attacks this knight as well as also opens this a2 square for this rook. But now comes knight to c2, attacking this rook, and obviously you cannot go to this b1 square due to this discover attack. So that's why rook to a2. But now comes d takes c4, bishop takes c4, and most of you will be like, bro, now there is no more attacks on white. But that's just the beginning, because now black will play this amazing move b5, giving up a free pawn to white. And suppose if white captured this pawn, now comes queen to d5, attacking this rook and this bishop. And since this rook cannot go to a1 square, which is already covered by this knight, so the only move left for this rook is b3. And obviously you cannot capture this pawn on b3 due to the threat of rook to b2, and with this white successfully defends his rook as well as his bishop. So that's why the best move is queen takes b5. And suppose after rook takes c2, if he decides to just capture our two pieces against the rook, so simply rook at f goes to e8, and now you can see this game will continue like this. Okay, so in the actual game, after this move, and guys, let me tell you that this position is already reached several times, and the most famous continuation of this game is bishop to f6, which was played between Vishwanathan Anand and Vladimir Kramnik in year 2003 at round 8 of weekend G. In that game, Kramnik was playing as white and Vishy was playing with black, and after that here Kramnik goes for knight to h2, which opens this f3 square for this bishop, as well as white is also preparing to place this knight to g4 so that he can target this bishop. And after that, queen to a5, targeting this pawn on c3, bishop to d2, defending it, rook at c goes to d8, bishop to f3, h6, opening this h7 square for this bishop if it gets attacked in future. And after that, knight to g4, okay, attacking this bishop. And if bishop takes g4, simply h takes g4, bishop to g5, asking for bishop exchange. And here the bishop gets exchanged in the game, and now you can see this double pawn structure. And after that, here Kramnik decides to exchange the rooks also, and then he goes for queen to d3. Basically here Kramnik is preparing for queen to c4 with the idea of bishop to d5, which would target this f7 pawn. So that's why to defend this, here Vishwanathan Anand finds the best move knight to d8, which first of all defends this f7 pawn and secondly also prepares to push c6 so that this bishop cannot enter to this d5 square. Basically this game ended in a draw, but you can see this destroyed pawn structure of black. Okay, so let's go back to our original game. After the move h3, in this game, here Kramnik goes for bishop to e4. And as you can see, here Kramnik is preparing for c5, but after that here Peters finds a great move c4, completely giving up this pawn. This is because of and by this you can see here white successfully neutralized the black attack. And now in this position you can see here white is targeting this queen as well as this pawn on e7. So that's why in this position here he decides to give up his queen for a rook and this bishop. And since this b7 pawn is attacked, so most of you will either push this pawn to b6 or maybe bring this rook to b8. But the problem with that move is, suppose if black pushes b6, now comes rook to d1, and by that white will create a passer. And Kramnik knows this very well. So that's why after the move queen takes a7, he finds the best move c5. He gives up this b7 pawn, and obviously white cannot capture this due to the threat of bishop takes a1. So that's why here Peter decides to capture this pawn on b7, and after that simply bishop takes d4. And you can see now black successfully posted his dark square bishop to a very good position, which eyes on this f2 pawn as well as this king, and that's exactly what Kramnik wants. And after that bishop to b6 by Kramnik, which stops this pawn push. And obviously white cannot capture this rook due to this passed pawn, so that's why he goes for. And now in this position here, Peter decides to give up his rook, rook by rook takes c3. Okay, so here as you can see, white is a pawn up, and white has this queen which will fight against these two rooks. But guys, instead of rook to a6, here black must consider the move which is h6, so that he can take control over this g5 square, and later he can bring this king to g7. And suppose if white goes for f4, then we can simply capture this a4 pawn, and if h5 trying to attack our pawn, we will simply bring our rook to a6, which targets this queen as well as defends this pawn. And after this queen goes to b7, we will simply capture this pawn and then rook to a1. And you can see here black is doing great. Okay, so in the actual game, after this move, and now it's better for white to capture this pawn, but instead he goes for queen to f4, which is a mistake because this allows black to improve his pawn structure by pushing g5. And now this is attacked, so here Peter goes for queen to f6, and after that h6. And obviously white cannot capture this h6 pawn due to the threat of rook to a6, which will trap this queen. So that's why he goes for. Okay, so as you can see, now white is out of moves, so that's why he is forced to shuffle this queen along this h8 diagonal. And the best move for black is to bring this rook to b6, so that he can take complete control over this a and this b file. But instead Here Kramnik goes for rook to a4. And now it's better for white to bring this queen to b5 so that he can give a check from e5 square and continue this game. But instead he blunders by playing king to f2, and the problem with that move is now Kramnik finds the best move rook to a3 with the idea of giving a check, or maybe rook at d goes to d2, which will target this f3 pawn. Okay, so by this move rook to f4, you can see black successfully waves a net over this f3 pawn. This is because now this queen have to move, and suppose if Peter goes for b2 square, giving a check, but simply rook at a goes to f6, and now you can see no one can defend this pawn. And at the end you can see black is a pawn up. So that's why in this position Peter Leko resigned. This is because this endgame is completely winning for white, for black. So, how? Let me show you. Suppose if king to e4, simply king to e6, king to f3, king to e5, king to e3, f5, g takes f5, king takes f5, king to f3, g4 check, king to g3, king to g5, king to g2, king takes h5, king to f2, king to g5, king to g3, and finally h5. And now clearly you can see this king cannot stop these two pawns at a time. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.